Trace Sport, brought to you by Nokia Asha smartphones. Do it freestyle.
I learned how to surf for the first time in the shore break in Wilderness, just with a friend of mine's dad pushing us into little white foamies. And the bug bit, and I think about it now, 20 years later surfing, and I'm still as crazy about the ocean now as I was then, and I just cannot wait to get back in the water. The first 3 guys that I bumped into at school in grade A were the 3 friends that I would end up surfing with for the rest of my life. Born in a small west coast town, Malmesbury. My dad was a crop spraying pilot, so we moved around quite a bit. We then moved to the Free State, and pretty much spent the first 6 years of my life inland in a town called Paris, not Paris. Obviously living inland in Paris, I wasn't exposed to the ocean, but my grandparents lived down in a small coastal town called Wilderness, and we used to travel down to visit them. And the first time, coming over the Otaniqua Mountains, and if you haven't been close to the coastline, you get this overwhelming sense or smell of the ocean. And I think it was ever since then, just that smell of the ocean and then seeing it for the first time, that just grabbed my heart and soul. And every time we used to go down and visit them, we would just spend hours and hours and hours on the beach and in the ocean and just playing and going crazy as kids. Eventually, my folks obviously just cottoned on to the fact that we loved it so much down there, so we moved down to the garden route. 3 mates surfing, going to school together, playing rugby, tennis, cricket and surfing as well, and we were doing karate, and so naturally a sense of competition develops and kind of just progressed from there. After school, we then committed ourselves to go and compete on the WQS tour. And I spent 3 years on tour, just traveling the world and surfing competitions and just challenging myself in the sport of surfing, and it was an amazing experience. Just before we actually committed ourselves to the tour, my friend and myself, we decided that we were going to give ourselves 3 years, but after 3 years, ideally what we wanted to do was actually go to university and complete a degree of some sort. After the 3 years, it was, even though at that stage I was, probably doing the best I'd done on the competitive circuit, I just knew that as an individual, to grow further, I needed to come back to South Africa and actually enroll in university, which I did at the University of Cape Town. And, came from this complete free lifestyle, surfing all around the world. I enrolled into university for 4 years and committed myself to, routine lectures and classes, and it was crazy. Once I completed my Bachelor of Business Science degree, my intention was then to go traveling again, but the opportunity arose to get involved with Billabong, South Africa, down in Jeffreys Bay. Naturally, it's right next to one of the best right-hand point breaks in the world, so I found myself driving down to Jeffreys Bay, fresh out of university, went and settled myself down at one of the best right-hand point breaks and working for a great surfing label. I was the marketing manager there for 3.5 years and developed great relationships with everybody and really enjoyed my time in the surfing industry. Having travelled to Cape Town, competing in the Red Bull South Africa, the big wave event, I happened to meet my now wife, and she actually joined me down in Jeffreys Bay and worked with me down there with Billabong. And our relationship grew from there, and we actually decided that we wanted to go travelling together. So I resigned from Billabong with the intention of traveling, and we came past Cape Town to say, basically say goodbye to her family. And, I just got encapsulated by her family and everybody down here, and, felt at home back in Cape Town. and an opportunity came about with Premier World, which is a family business. My father-in-law is the managing director of Premier World, and he asked whether I wouldn't be interested in getting involved in the marketing division here, which I happily took up, and got involved in the restaurant industry. And having come from the surfing industry and kind of throwing myself into the restaurant industry has been a challenge. It's taken me at least 2 years to find my feet. It is a very tough industry. It's a very hard-working industry, and it just takes a different mindset. I've really enjoyed it. I've learnt a lot. Once again, met amazing people, and I work in with a great brand, and Premier has grown, and we've developed and we've evolved, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Living in the city and there's a lot going on, try and find every opportunity that I can to kind of get out of it and escape into nature, whether it be in the ocean or into the forests and stuff. And we're very fortunate in Cape Town where, just a few minutes out of the hustle and bustle, I can escape. So literally I could be sitting at my desk, in an intense meeting, and meeting finishes, and 5 minutes later I could be in the forest, riding my bike or going for a run or something like that. Cape Town's renowned for very windy summers, and with the strong southeaster winds, is one of the side effects is that the waves kind of become depleted. You don't find that much surf. So, one of the obvious, alternative activities for me was to take on kite surfing. When I moved back to Cape Town, naturally being on the southern tip, one of the southernmost points of Africa, you're exposed to great frontal systems and big swells. So it was a natural progression for me to get involved in big wave surfing on the Cape Peninsula. Big wave surfing is a pretty scary experience, but I've managed to adapt to it fairly well, and I actually really enjoy it. And I was exposed through Red Bull to the Big Wave Africa events, and with that, met some great people who really have a strong passion for big wave surfing. And sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and just relive that moment of paddling into that wave of Dungeons and winning that event, and just cannot believe that it was all real. Just remember paddling as hard as I could and just focusing on bending my knees in the drop. I just knew that I had it under control, And I got to the bottom, it was just such a huge relief, and I just casually laid into the bottom turn and kind of made my way back up to the top of the wave, and the wave just happened to fold over, and I just kind of crouched into it, and it was just, almost surreal in a way that you just ridden this most incredible wave out of Dungeons during an event. And it was just a really great feeling, and super stoked, and hearing everybody screaming on the boats. I just found that the more competitions that I was going to, it just became about the competition and not so much about what it was that I actually loved about surfing. All of a sudden I found myself surfing less, I would have a 20-minute, half an hour surf, and I'd be, that's it, I'm done, and then head off and, try and do something else. And I just lacked that sense of just, when I was a kid, I used to jump into the water and surf for 8 hours, and even then at 8 hours it wasn't enough. I wanted more, and you know, when I started competing professionally, it became, you know, that I didn't have that absolute, that burning fire and love for surfing as it was. And it's funny, as I took a step back and I withdrew myself from the competitive environment, or at least to the degree that I was involved in it, I found that all of a sudden I just started really enjoying my surfing again, and I started surfing better. I was far more relaxed, and you know, it just kind of seems like everything in life requires a really good balance. I mean, being at that level of competition and, you know, competing against the best surfers in the world, it takes a specific person to take yourself to that level of competitiveness. And you know, I could see it. I could see that competitive drive in a lot of the individuals that are now in the top 10 on the World Championship Tour. And I think I might have lacked that competitiveness. In the time that I've been in Cape Town working with Premi, I've also had the opportunity to experience fatherhood. My wife Shani and myself, we've got two beautiful daughters, Ocean and Indy, and we've had a great experience with them, you know, watching them grow up. It's just this whole, you know, seeing it all happen again, as if, you know, I was that kid, you know, back in the day in the Free State and going down to the coast. I see my children now growing up right by the ocean and seeing that same spark in the eye that I had when I was a kid, and it's an amazing experience. You look back and you go, do I regret anything? Should I have been more competitive? Should I have applied myself better? And, you know, there's always going to be those questions. You know, I've kind of overcome that, and I'm very happy with the path that I've taken. All right, top 5 things for Sean Holmes. Definitely surfing, kite surfing. I love fishing. I love being with my family every single day. Twitter, Facebook, you know the story. You got to stay within the social feed and keep up to date with the mates and what they're doing around the world. So.
Sport, brought to you by Nokia Asha Smartphones. Do it freestyle.